Welcome back to GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is Monday, April 7th. If you are just tuning in, we just finished going over the Final Four, one of the best Final Fours we have ever seen in the sport of college basketball, as we saw Houston with the biggest comeback in March Madness history in the Final Four, and another comeback where Auburn was unable to hold on as Florida advanced to take on those Houston Cougars in the final tonight. Just about 30 minutes away from tip-off, we're going to break that game down, as well as UConn Paige Bueckers taking care of business against South Carolina in a near 20-point defeat of the Gamecocks. That's coming up in a second. Before we do, though, remember, if you would like to be an even bigger part of the show than you already are, all you need to do is go to gsmcpodcast.net. Or if you're on YouTube, you can use that super chat feature. If you do either of those two things, a message should pop up on the bottom of the screen for you, me, and everybody else around the world to see. If you do have a burning question about sports, anything at all that you would like to ask, go ahead and throw that in the comments. Throw it in the chat. I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. I appreciate everybody so much for sticking around, talking some sports with me here on a beautiful Monday, April 7th. But like I was saying, we are going to get a little bit here into the world of college basketball again. We're going to start off with women's basketball because we do know what happened in that championship game, as the number 2 seed UConn Huskies have captured their 12th championship. Paige Bueckers gets her first national championship. They take care of business against South Carolina, who went on another run trying to get their third championship in the last 4 years, going for back-to-back championships. UConn wins 82-59 in this one behind Fudd. Fudd goes off. She ends up winning the player of the MVP of the Final Four, really. She goes off for she absolutely has a massive game for UConn. Paige Bueckers, of course, the big story. She ends her career, a storybook college career ending, starting off with the youngest player, the only freshman in the history of women's college basketball to win National Player of the Year, then dealing with injuries. 2022 had to sit out for the year. Dealing with injuries for most of 2023, was able to come back near the end and play in the tournament. But now in her final year, before she goes pro to play in the WNBA, Paige Bueckers wins a national championship for UConn. And that is really, really cool to see. Of course, it was a clash of the old versus the new as well. You had the old dynasty, the UConn Huskies, going up against the new dynasty, a budding dynasty in the South Carolina Gamecocks, a Gamecocks team that has won two of the last 4 now championships, was going for 2 straight championships, and has just been a menace to everybody in college basketball over the last couple of seasons. They open up as the favorites for next season as well. This is going to be a matchup we see again potentially next year, because these two squads are just stacked once again. But this was an amazing game. Of course, UConn had been just dominant all tournament long. You want to talk about a team that was going crazy. They take out not just UConn by 23 points, not just South Carolina by 23 points, but in the Final Four, they took care of business by nearly 40 points. They win by 34 points against UCLA, the number 1 overall seed coming into the tournament. They have been they've just been absolutely amazing, right? And nothing was close for them all tournament long. You win by 14. That was your closest game against USC in the Elite Eight. USC without Juju Watkins. So you wonder how much that game could have been different if Juju Watkins was playing. Then they take care of business against Oklahoma in the Sweet 16, winning again by nearly 30 points, 59-82. In the round of 32, they do basically win by 40 points, 91-57, and then they win by 70 in the first round, 103-34. They were dominant. No one was close to them all tournament long, and they just continue to show why a team that has a good culture, a legendary coach, can continue to be this amazing program for basically forever, right? We don't know how long this is going to last, but appreciate greatness while it's here. The crown is going to be passing soon over to South Carolina. I just wonder how many more championships they can grab before the crown officially moves over, as honestly, I had thought it already did. But regardless of that, congratulations to UConn. They claim another national championship, throw that on the belt to one of the greatest coaches in not just women's basketball history, but basketball history right there. Hall of Famer. Congratulations to them. But we do have another game tonight. The final game of the college basketball season, the March Madness Finals. We have Houston, a number 1 seed ranking coming from the bottom right quadrant of the bracket, and then Florida, bottom left side. The gauntlet side of the bracket was the Florida Gators. These two teams are set for a clash tonight. These two teams are, I won't say polar opposites of each other, because they're not quite polar opposites. You want to talk about opposites, that's Duke versus Houston, but it's going to be a very similar kind of game to that Duke-Houston game, I think. It's going to come down to which of these teams can impose their style of play. Duke was able to get that. Houston likes to play slow. They're a defensive-minded team. The less possessions you have, the less likely you are to run up the score on them. Now, Houston also has shooters. LJ Cryer has been amazing. Sharp has been amazing for them, especially in these last couple of games and stepping up big against Duke. They both hit a lot of huge threes. I'd like to look for them to have another huge game against a Gators defense that's very good, top 10, but is the weakest defense out of all of the teams that did end up making it to the Final Four. You want to talk about offense, though, that Gators offense is something else. And really the Gators' main strength heading into this game, favored in this one by 1.5, so basically a pick'em. But their main strength heading into this one is the fact that they have so much depth. They have size in the front court. They have a guy like Clayton who can make a shot from anywhere. You have guys coming off the bench. You have guys starting that just make impacts. And this team has been clutch. But one of the big weaknesses, as we talked about in the last segment with this Florida team, is the fact that they've started slow. And that is fine when you have an offense like Florida's that you know they're going to turn it on at some point, and they have, to their credit. But also at the same time, Florida cannot, I repeat, cannot fall behind by too many points against this Houston team, because that is how they get you. Both of these teams are amazing. Neither of these teams have lost when they get a 10-point lead at any point in the second half this season. Both of these teams have orchestrated amazing comebacks of double-digit points. Of course, we just saw Houston do it against a Duke team that, by the metrics, was the second-best team of all time in college basketball, only behind a 1999 Duke squad. This is a very, very tough team for both of them to play. Of course, the stakes here, Houston trying to get their program's first ever national championship. Florida looking for their first since 2007 after they had gone back-to-back there. But both of these coaches are looking for their first one. It's going to be very interesting to see how it goes. This is more of a battle of wills in this one, because both of these teams have very similar strengths offensively. They're both very good at shooting. They're both very good at rebounding. They put a lot of effort into it. But the big thing is going to come on the pace of play. Florida likes to play fast. Houston, likes to play slow. Whichever one of these guys can impose their pace of play is going to end up winning this game. I see this game being very similar, like I said, to that Duke-Houston game we saw the other night, but I like Florida a lot. I think they're going to have their shot makers. They, unlike Duke, have dealt with these close games. We talked about it. During not just this run, but throughout the season, this run, they took care of UConn by 2 points. They took care of Texas Tech at the last second. They had a comeback against Auburn in the Final Four. This is a team that is battle-tested, knows how to deal with it when they're behind, and a team that has shown they can overcome it. Duke had never done that. They struggled in those late-game, high-pressure situations. I don't think Florida's going to do that. So if Houston falls behind again, like they did against Duke, if they get dominated for 30 out of 40 minutes of this game, it's not going to be good. Both of these teams need to come out to a hot start. That is really going to be the key for this one. I can't wait to see how it goes because I'm super excited for this one. I think this is a chance to be one of the most magical finals we have seen in a very long time. Everything has led up to it. Really, what has come out to be one of the best Final Fours, one of the best tournaments ever, could have a nice little bow on top of it if it ends in a legendary way. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Who do you think is going to win tonight in the finals between the Gators and the Cougars? What do you take out of UConn taking home yet another national title on the women's sides of things? I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we turn our attention to the ice. You can see it on the whiteboard behind me. Alex Ovechkin, record-breaking goal. 895 for the greatest goal scorer of all time. We'll talk about what it means. Compare it to guys like LeBron James' accomplishments and much more. That's coming up next here on GSMC's Down by Contact Sports Podcast.